Here we are. We're live right now on Mapex Facebook page. This is so great that I have this opportunity with Mapex to bring on so many great artists. And today I've got this incredible multi-talented drums, keyboard, vocals. Kirk does it all. The Captain Kirk is in the house. Everyone, please welcome Kirk Covington.
Virtuality. Let me apologize up front for my voice. Is my volume all the way up? Okay.
Your voice sounds fantastic. I can hear you. Now we're live right now, Kirk. You did a session yesterday?
7 hours, day after day, brother.
And this is mostly singing?
Well, when I have a vocal session, I have to eat right, sleep right, get up right, and prepare.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, as most vocalists will probably agree. But I'm no vocalist, dude.
Hey, you are a fantastic vocalist. And what I've heard from some of your unplugged stuff, which we'll get into later on, I want to go back, first of all. I mean, I heard you back in the early 90s with Tribal Tech, and you freaking blew me away there. I mean, just your intensity of playing. And aside from how great your drumming skills are, aside from how great you sing, but your keyboard chops are fantastic also.
Can I relate the story? Because I realize that your gig is these impeccable conversations. Because I called Bennett yesterday and I said, what can I do? Can I get behind my drums? Can I sing? Can I play piano? And he said, no, you're going to have a conversation with Dom. That scares me, bro. But here's my deal. Quickly, the nutshell is started banging a snare drum at 9. God, my voice. Around 12, 13, I found my auntie's upright grand piano up in Utah.
Yeah.
And I never looked back.
Wow.
To this day, I hear people go, oh, multi this, multi that. And I know, no. I chose piano over vibes and mallets, basically.
Yeah.
It struck me. And I never looked back. But guess what, Dom Famularo? About 3 days ago, I finally achieved a bucket list, and I reached out, thanks to Eric Doris, to Gary Husband. Gary Husband, that Brit boy, is a bad dude.
Yeah, yeah. And
I said, hey, man, what if we composed and wrote and shared a record together? And I've known him since 82. Yeah. I was sitting at a restaurant in Houston with Willis on tour with Holdsworth and Gary, and he played a cassette in his car for me of Husband playing Chopin. Okay, that's the story. Okay, but you dig what I'm saying? He's coming from keys to drums. I'm coming from drums to keys. It's a good idea.
Well, I'll tell you something. Listen, I love your humility. You really are a fantastic drummer. You're a fantastic keyboard player. You sing from your heart, from the depth of your soul. And we have people that are here that are logging on. Russ Miller has joined us, the great, fantastic. Russ is on here now, listening carefully. And for sure, Russ, it's happening.
You mean the baddest studio player and drummer in the world?
Russ is, and here's another multi-talented guy. Russ not only plays drums phenomenally well, not only produces and mixes and runs an entire studio at many different levels, but he also writes great educational books, and he does these interviews for Monitor magazine. I mean, he's so multi-skilled, and I've known Russ when he was 12 years old, and he impressed me then and continues to impress me now. And then on top of that, he designs, the drum lab drums design lab for Mapex on top of that.
Oh yeah, that. Let's go back to pre-absolutes. And I had no clue, even though I met Miller in 1992 or 3-ish on the flyaway bus from LAX to the parking lot. And we magically sat in the back of the bus. There was 2 seats left. And I said, hey, what's up? How you doing? He said, yeah, how you doing, man? I'm Covington. He said, yeah, I'm Miller. I swear. He was playing with Chalk at the time. A lot of people don't really understand the depth of that guy's musicality and his chops.
Yeah.
We just talked yesterday, Dom, and it was about you too, brother. You know what? I'm 64 as of August 31st, right? Damn. And I shared with Miller that I have finally understood what it means to concentrate as a drummer.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys know me.
Yeah.
It's not that I can't concentrate and do what you guys do, but it's about an effort.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share it with him because I had just seen his studio videos about the Giovanni session.
Yeah.
And he goes, snare on 4 only. I can relate to that. But here's the intro. And then verse. And I fainted. I know what the headphones, the studio thing is about, but Miller and those guys did a dynamic thing that it was flabbergasting. But he's been doing it for 40 freaking years.
Yeah.
And so have you, sir.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's great that I've been around here. You know, you say you're in your early 60s. I'm in my late 60s now, so you're about a old man. So
don't say we're in our mid to early 60s, bro.
Right. Yeah. So here's what's incredible. Your enthusiasm for playing music is unmatched because 27 years ago when I first heard of you, it's always been that consistent. So you're 12, 13, drums, piano. Who were some of your influences at a young age who you're listening to?
I knew this was going to happen. Bennett told me yesterday, he said, trust Don, have a rap with him. And I said, that's true. I know that son of a gun since the early 90s at Montreal. Yeah. First of all, let me start by saying I was so happy that Miller shared yesterday about you and the way you played the other day. Because it's one thing to be a fantastic moderator, communicator, educator, academician, teacher, groover, but my fervent, deep down hope is always that none of you cats ever lose what I was blessed with my whole career. Yeah. Okay. Which is back to the story of what I shared with Miller is like guys like Vinny and Dennis and on and on and on. These guys have ultimate musicality, improvisation, and blowing chops. But I think by virtue of years in the studio, years of doing it right, years of etc., Miller has a groove and a concentration that at 64 years old, I'm just now realizing what I need to do, Dom, because I played the band since I was 12 years old. Allman Brothers, Blind Faith, College Jazz, Tribal Tech, Awanul, Holdsworth. I was never required to really necessarily be that cat. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's not about the group. It's about compositional attitude that's like, and I realized it's so amazing that we're having this chat and this thing because I'm going yesterday morning, Sunday morning, I spent 45 minutes doing 5 grooves for our brand for Mapex. And I told Bennett, but it was about my ages old concept of 2-minute minimum rule, Dom. When I clinic, I say, boys, and I hear myself teaching myself because it's like, back. Back, get in the center of that groove and don't let up. Kick, snare, and hat, ride, snare, and hat, ride, snare, and kick for at least minimum 2 minutes. Because like martial arts and other aspects of life, you understand what you're doing and you make it body automatic. You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely, totally.
I mean, I sound like a teenager because it's like, oh, yeah, duh. But I've never had to do that kind of thing necessarily. And
so what were the influences? Who are you listening to that opened you up? Because you've got a wide variety of sound that you can play jazz and rock and funk and fusion, and I mean you got it all together. What influences brought that out of you?
For a semi-pro moderator, that's a good question. I don't have a drum stand or a mic or a piano. Look, I was born in 1956 in West Texas. That means when I was 12 years old, I was in 8th grade in 1968. And I think everybody watching understands what that means. There was an apex of the origins from classical, legit, to the 1800s, 1900s, blues, et cetera, et cetera. I was blessed with being born at the apex of the originality, meaning via my older brother especially, I heard the first Zeppelin. I heard the first Black Sabbath. I heard the transition from jazz and swinging to straight rock and roll. You did?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, there's nothing like being part of the original deal. So I was blessed with hearing the fusion of it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Kids today, kids before, didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Pardon my voice. So in other words, there was no difference for me between the swing thing into the, and then it's funny when you still listen to some of the 50s and 60s drummers, even Hal Blaine, bless his heart.
Yeah.
He was a deity. Some of those guys couldn't quite straighten it out. Yeah. It's like, instead of like we did. So the answer is the big band, Sonny Payne's and Joe Morello's of my parents' generation, the Elvin Jones, the modern, jazz transitional drummers, to the Billy Cobhams. My sweet, bless her heart, my older sister Renee put on the vinyl record in, I guess I was about 15, in 1974 of Weather Report Mysterious Traveler.
Oh, boy.
Let me say it again. She put on the vinyl record of Mysterious Traveler. I'm 15 years old. I was already totally hip to Billy Cobham with Mahavishnu as well as the CTI sides that came. You understand?
Yeah, sure.
Billy was doing all that John McLaughlin shit, but he was also playing CTI records with Ron Carter, Herbie Hancock, sax guy. So the short story is I was blessed with all of the original reference. Okay?
Yeah.
And I will never stop sharing that story. Guys like you understand.
Yeah.
Guys like Miller understand.
Yeah.
But kids like both my sons who are kicking butt musically, but they have to be taught.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't get to listen. They listen to the 90s. They listen to the 2000s on, but I'm sorry, but it ain't the same, Dom.
No, I'm with you 100%. We were fortunate to grow up at a time where the decades of music, the 50s, as we were born in the 50s, you had the beginning of bebop jazz, and you had this incredible growth of what was happening with all this great music. Sinatra, you mentioned Sonny Payne and these guys with the Basie band backing up Sinatra, live at the at Caesar's Palace and the Sands Hotel.
It was all through my folks, all of that generation. It was all through my folks. But I heard, this is funny, short story. You remember that was Time Machine by Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
It was that simple de-voicing down low that he took up about 12 frets. I learned a bunch of guitar crap because of my brother, the guitarist.
Nice.
And it was just all about, okay, that's cool. And I've made a habit of that my entire career. I spent over a year with all three saxophones and even a cornet. The point I'm making is this: drums and piano were my primary and secondary, but nobody had to make me take a semester or two of musicology.
Yeah, yeah.
I played cornet. I swear to God, I played cornet for about 8 months. until my lymph glands got all swelled up and my lips got all blistered. And I said, okay, that's cool. My boys in Reno back in the day will attest to the fact that I had a Vito soprano, a Signet alto, student alto, and a Holton tenor. And I got to the point of jacking with reeds and pads, and I got to a point where I said, okay, I think I've completed the semester. Same with bass. I mean, I've got all these stories where I just look, it's not about the actual instrument. It's about what Chick and others have said. Scott Henderson, Scott Henderson is a great drummer. So Zawadu. And all of them have kind of said the same similar deal. And that is there's glue and there's rhythm and there's harmony. Back to Miller. I've seen the guy in his studio. He has a full-on understanding of harmony, melody, theory.
Yeah.
He didn't decide to get the chops like I decided to do because he was busy with that 40 other things, right?
Yeah.
I know he's here, but I appreciate that about him because I don't have to explain to him what's going on harmonically. It doesn't matter what we do, Dom.
Yeah.
If you're a drummer and you achieve musicality and melodicism as a drummer, you're there. But I believe it's super important for you to go over to the keyboard or the guitar, take your pick, and chase harmony and melody.
Yeah. Well, this is great for everyone to hear this because as drummers, sometimes drummers get locked into those blinders of just drumming mentality. And I mean, I play some piano. I mean, it's extremely helpful. And I think having another instrument that can broaden you out is an incredible gift. Listen, you were blessed with that gift a hell of a lot more than a lot of us that were out there that were just,
But I also made a decision. I was blessed with going to my auntie's summer after summer, and by 12, 13 years old, upright grand pianos, when they're tricked out, are the same as a grand piano, like about a 5, 6, or 6 foot grand piano. Yeah. And I was going C, octaves and fifths, and within 6 months, I was developing my own realization of Chick Corea type of technique. I wrote a tune about this beautiful blonde chick that I was hot over in high school, and she was at the other high school in Midland Lee High School, and I never had the remotest chance, but I got to write a tune: C major 7, B minor, B flat 7, A 2 5. It just started unfolding for me.
Nice.
But I never had a decision about, well, what are you going to end up doing? It was the drum set and the piano.
Yeah.
Do you realize that in the last 2 to 3 years, I have basically started practicing a practice pad? You dig? I'm catching up with you cats. I'm working on triples and doubles and quadruples and snare technique like all these oldsters and young guns that have all that together. And I'm going, oh, that's pretty darn cool. Miller and I laugh about it because you guys are used to that. A lot of you guys had that blessing growing up. I didn't have jack, bro. I'm in Midland. Do you know that the only lessons I ever took growing up through 16 years old was a couple of years of piano?
Wow.
And the cat was cool. I'll never forget. It's so vivid. He was hipping me to not just reading nomenclature, but he was helping me understand and further my understanding of the piano keyboard. How many men and women have we known in our career that can go Liszt, Chopin, but they have no clue what freaking tonal center or what root movement or what harmonic modulation they're in? You know what I'm saying?
So where did all this theory come from? Was it just playing? I mean, listen, understanding all the different scales, understanding the cycle of fifths, understanding what a two change is. You got to really, was that all through experimentation?
Until I arrived at freshman year at South Plains College with Bill Snodgrass, 2 years before I got down with Texas, it was all about experimentation.
Wow.
Dommy, it's not that hard. You have a piano keyboard. We are locked in the 12-tone system.
Yeah.
We have been since Johann Sebastian Bach.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I had no idea of what microtonal Eastern music and, Malaysian music was about, where it's not like ba, ba, ba. So it was very kind of simple for me to go, you got these 12-tone systems. And then when I got to my first year of college, and I got to back up and say, thank God in heaven above, my junior and senior year in Midland High School, I was in the choir. And the same choir teacher taught a theory class with the old purple Robert Ottman book.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sitting there going, okay,
wow.
Italian sixth, French sixth, all these systems of the classical guys. But this sweet lady didn't fail to mention this, Dom. She said, this is only how the academicians defined what those guys did. Because I was already deep into jazz, modern harmony.
Yeah.
If I'm in C and the root is A flat, there we are.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and she made it so easy for me. And of course, I'm in melodic dictation class going. I tried to be cool and not a dick, because it was like the way they teach, even in third, fourth year of college. I was already relating everything to my frame of reference.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to go on and on, but I'm telling you, at this ripe old age, I now understand that I was conversely blessed, because you and Miller and Greg B and Ray Brinker and all my homies and on and on and on that grew up in these urban cities. Greg Bissonette studied in Detroit and the East Coast when he was, 11, 12 years old?
Yeah.
And on and on. The cats got to learn and got teachers. I was frustrated for 20 or 25 years about the fact that I was from Midland. Nobody taught me. I'm just now leading left and really working on left leads. It's on one of my vids right now. And it's from the snare pad. And all these young cats, the so-called gospel chops cats that come from drumline. Drumline, I didn't get to play in the marching band or the concert band or jack squat because I was playing tennis.
Wow.
I went from football, second year of high school, I played tennis through my 2 years of college. You don't get to do both. Now I realize, Dommy, that in a converse way, I'm kind of lucky. Yeah. The greatest props that I've ever been given my entire life is, wow, you don't really sound like anybody else. And I've always gone, well, yeah, cool. Because I'm hearing Dennis and Vinny and Weckel and Todd Zuckerman and Miller and Thomas Lang, and they've got all this shit together. And I'm going, I guess it's cool. And to this day, I play the way I play. First of all, singles. Yeah. But I'm now finally realizing that maybe it's a blessing. Go ahead and pursue what you have and adapt and learn what they have. I'm telling you, every day almost, I have 2 Vic Firth practice pads in my pad, studio and house, and big old white military sticks. And I spend minutes, hours, etc. going, concentrate. And all you cats have that, bro. And let me just give props to all you guys. Like Miller the other day. That's why at 64 old years, I shared with him Sunday morning. I said, look, and he laughed his ass off because I said, listen, I got to share something with you. I finally realized that sometimes I don't really concentrate. And he goes, wow, here's my shock face. And I'm talking about that depth of groove when you're going, Kenny Aronoff, John Bonham, Vinnie Paul Yuta, Dave Weckl, Russ Miller, on and on and on. These guys, when they play a certain kind of song, they have learned how to concentrate. It's not about all that pocket shit or this, that, the other. It's about getting into that groove. Here's a great quick example. Russ plays on my Blu-ray. He's always played Chase the Blues Away, and I go to organ. And he goes, dunk, chapap, ba-choom. Oh, and he throws that little chup in there in the groove. And I told him yesterday, I said, look, this is not going to shock you, but I realized finally that I've used chup since second year at North Texas. I had all this stuff that I developed, like saying the chup doesn't have to be the eighth note anchor. Right? It's like chup, 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 chup. And guys like Lang and all these cats are like, oh yeah, really? He threw this thing in there. I know he does this as a technique. All you guys do, but it was important to tell him I understand, because it was like listening to the way he digs deep in the pockets. It was amazing to me, Dom.
Yeah.
And every time I've heard you play, and especially yesterday when Miller gave you props about what was he talking about? You just played the other day. I see a couple of things in you.
We had
Dom Famularo, great educator, great communicator. You also play drums like a emotional. I know you do.
Hey, I remember hearing you when we did the Joe Hibbs Memorial benefit for him in Nashville. Russ Miller was the musical director. First of all, you leave it to Russ Miller. He puts together the best band. It's organized the best way. You choose the tunes you want. You get the charts. It's all the way with Russ.
Right.
Highly professional. But we
still laugh about that, right?
I mean, he just is so great at not only playing on the drums in front of the music, but behind the music. He organizes everything so well and professional. It's really amazing. But you played your freaking tail off. It was all Mapex stuff was there. We had the whole event that was there in honor of the passing of Joe Hibbs. You went up there and you freaking tore it up.
Can I share my Hibby story?
Yeah. Being
in North Texas State I was basically done in Denton about 80, 81-ish. I moved on to Dallas. I got married in 84. In about late 81, 82, I went down to Houston, Texas, and I visited my boy Keith Carnegie and his lieutenant Joe Hibbs when there was still a little red brick house on Montrose, chock full of everything. And I ponied up about $5,000 to $6,000 for my first serious self-bought drum set. Do you know what I bought? A Sonar Signature ebony drum set with two 18 by 22s, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, there, and all the Sonar shit. And here's the end of the story, which is even more remarkable. When I finally met DC Danny Carey in, I don't know, early 2000s, he's a Sonar guy forever. He was looking for an ebony kit. He had all kinds of babinga. And when, like, days after we met, I said, you know what? I got this Sonar Signature double bass bad boy kit in my garage under wraps. It's cherry. I treat it like my freaking 65 Mustang. And you know, is that really what you're looking for, Danny? He said, oh, yeah, I can't find an ebony kit. And that bad son of a gun plopped up way more than I expected. And I fought him tooth and nail. But he said, here's a couple, you know, whatever the grand was. And he said, and through the subsequent 8 or 9 years, till about 2009, I sat on the keyboards right next to his double bass sonar kit that I sold him. Nice. And Joe Hibbs, that's where we started, bro. It was 1982, I guess. In 1991, to finish the story, when I arrived in LA, January 1989, I scurried around. I ended up with a Tribal Tech gig because of my relationship with Gary Willis from college, et cetera, et cetera. This is a great story, too. The second Tribal Tech record, which is called Face First, there was a blue Aqua Star Classic Tama kit. Yeah. That was the prototype, the only USA kit in existence. And Joe Hibbs, and I ordered my future Star Classics. He said, take these Aqua Blues into the studio. Face First is the Aqua Blues.
Oh, that's
by the way, with a 13x5 Keith Larson Baltimore drum snare drum.
Oh, Keith Larson, phenomenal.
You know, I can share all this now. I'm worried about it.
Yeah.
Joe Hibbs signed me to Hoshino, where I stayed until 97 fall when I met a certain guy named, what's his last name? Starts with a T. First name Joe. What's that guy's name? Joey T. Oh, yeah, Joey Testa. I got to share this with the listeners. Bro, a lot of guys have heard this from me, but listen, in 1996 at the Winter NAMM, somebody introduced me and Joe Testa, and he was full on Warner Brothers DCI video cat from Miami.
A great guy. Yeah, exactly.
A year later, almost exactly, I got an email from Gary Willis that said, hey, listen, Joe Testa has just become the AR dude for Yamaha drums. Yeah. And he's also, by the way, a stupid Dallas Cowboy fan. And I went, well, you know what? In that case, I guess I'm going to reach out to him. But even more hip is that in summer 96, we played the NAMM show with our typical trio, which is me, Kinsey, and Willis. Mm. And that particular summer, we played one of those big, you remember the ancient days where you did the sideline, it was at NAMM, but it was a big hall next door.
Yeah.
All that shit's gone.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it because we did our typical trio, which was a microcosm, a groove blowing microcosm of the Tribal Tech thing.
Yeah.
I met Avery Burdett and Jerry Andreas. Let me make sure that I make their names right. It was August 96 at a satellite gig called Barbara's. Yeah. The Thursday night of NAMM. Me and the trio are doing our thing up there, all regular shit for us. Front row center was those two dudes. Avery Burdett and Jerry both came up to me and Kinsey because they couldn't ask Willis because he's a bass player. They said, we want you to join Yamaha, period. Come see us in September in Buena Vista and Buena Park, yada, yada. So they actually signed us, and then a month or less later, I get this email from Willis saying, hey, remember meeting Joey Testa a year ago, Summer NAMM? He's now Yamaha AR. Oh, and he's also a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Yeah.
This is so important to share because these are blessings that are magical.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, in January 97 at the Winter NAMM, do you remember what Yamaha unveiled?
Was that? I don't remember that.
Absolute drum kits, beech, birch, and maple.
Oh, interesting.
Forget it. So my first endorsement kit was the vintage Yamaha natural finish Big Mama kit. Joe Testa, I can't express in enough words how much I love that dude.
Oh, he's a great guy. He's a great
and Jordan and everybody who was involved back then and even till now. But let me give props to our boy Mark Bennett.
Yeah.
Because Mark and I are starting to talk about twice a week or so.
Yeah. When did you join Mapex?
Okay, to continue the thread, everybody knows the Yamaha story. I got signed in 97, along around 15 or so, whenever it happened. A lot of cats knew way before us that the whole story about Azo's grandfather and the drum factory that started in 29 or 30, whatever, in Osaka. Yeah. Point being, I didn't know what was going on, Dom. I love my absolutes, but they were starting to get rid of stuff. And then Sakai split off. And I didn't have a clue for like 6 months or so what was really happening. Nowadays, I understand from Miller sharing with me, you know, I hope everybody understands that guy's history. He was not only a part of the creation of the absolutes, he was there a long time before that. He's like cats like Gad and Erskine, those ancient Yamaha cats.
Yeah.
I remember going to NAMM through the 90s, especially, and there would be like 200 guys at the Saturday Yamaha signing booth. And I would get like 4 rows back, and there's Gad and Vinny, and I'm going, oh, can I stand here, fellas? You know what I mean? It's like, I play drums too. Because it was so deep. But then come to understand, and now to this current time, you know the history of Sakai? Miller's wife named the 3 brands, by the way. I hope it's okay for me to share this crap. Trilogy, Celestial, and damn, I forgot. So what's the Poplar drums? They had 3 drums, and they were bad to the bone. And as usual, Miller was totally involved. And now a lot of us didn't understand that way back in the day when he split Yamaha, it wasn't because of the Sakai Yamaha divorce. It was way ahead of that. So Mapex was smart enough to go, hey, Miller, what about we give you a design manufacturing consultant bread, and you design top to bottom? You dig?
Well, that was also, you know, part of the Joe Hibbs, you know, legacy that Joe was
absolutely. Able to. That is absolutely true. He talks about that all the time.
Yeah.
That him and Hibbs were the originators, and I didn't know jack, bro. And to tell you the truth, I never have had a problem with the new. I hope Miller's watching still, because we sat down at lunch back in the day one day, and he looked at me right now and he said, hey, me and Randy and Sakai and Mapex, we're coming up with this new Tom concept, and it's maglev. And I went, yeah, right. I'd been on a maglev train in France and Japan. So I had to dig it. I had to think about it for a while. Magnetic levitation. That means that there is no friction.
Yeah.
Nothing's touching nothing.
Yeah.
And I said, I mean, as we were walking out the restaurant, I said, okay, why don't you give me the real dope? What are you really talking about? Because I know you ain't talking about magnetic levitation. And he said, check it out. And once I understand it, some cats have had a trouble thinking it's too difficult and too technical. He explained, him and others explained to me the basic deal, and it's the most amazing thing in the world. Yeah. Hey, forget that. That's hardware. Miller, let me tell you a quick story, guys. In, I don't know, mid 2000s, 05, Volto was like 8 or 9 years, you know, to fruition. But Danny showed up one particular night at Baked Potato, and he said, you know what? I called my boys in West Germany. I said, look, I want you to make me a drum set where the 8-inch drum is 1 inch thick and the 10-inch is less, the 12, the 13. When you get to the 15 and 16, they're very thin. And I went, you're a god. Because I had thought almost half of my career about why are all drum sets the same laminates? Why are they all shell thickness? Why and I didn't even have a clue about the truth, which is the smaller shell needs a thicker diameter.
Yeah.
The 16, and that's why Gretches and the Miller BPDLs, and, you know, hey, let's not forget about what Miller has done with the Mapex Saturns. Yeah. Long story short, he showed up when we started hooking up, and he, you know, Miller is the absolute reason why I am a Mapex endorser. Nice. Let me repeat that. Miller is the absolute reason. That brother gave me an absolute gift of saying, look, I was floating around. I was playing Sakai. We all knew the history of Sakai. Things were not developing the way we all hoped. And Miller said, look, and I was going, Dom, look, man, let's not beat around the bush. When Greg Bissonette was a Mapex guy and Joe Hibbs went to Mapex, a lot of us thought that Mapex were not that great of shells. I'm just going to say that. But what I have come to learn is that just like tennis shoes, sometimes, you know, they create stuff that's so affordable that blah, blah, blah. But I guess I can share this as well. I had this Mappa Sakai Big Mama double bass kit. And before me and Miller had even hardly hugged and shook hands, I said, look, I sure would like to play some Saturns, and maybe I could give you these Mapex. That's a great idea. Except my Saturns that sit in my studio right now in Cagle Canyon, California, are not Saturns. They ain't your daddy Saturns. They're Russ Miller's modern Saturns, like the Mars and all the kits that Mapex is producing. Russ Miller, in my opinion, with Jeff and now Mark, they have corrected the deal.
Oh yeah, totally.
You're a Mapex guy. Tell me about your Mapex history, Don.
It really is the same thing. You know, I mean, I've got behind me, as you can see, I've got my Mapex Saturn V here, and you know, I'm pretty soon going to be getting one of the Mapex Evolution. I mean, these really are.
Go play a quick groove. Come on, come right now. Play a quick groove.
Out of the mind of Russ Miller, it doesn't get any better than that. And I had the chance of interviewing Jeff Hamilton, who has also joined us on this chat.
Bucket list.
Jeff is here with us too. Another insane player and a fantastic musical mind.
I understand how so many of us have been his ardent fan. I can't even remember the first time I heard Hamilton. It was long before the Diane shit or whatever else. I just knew this cat. I know what it was. Way back when, Hornblower Yachts out of Newport Beach, California, where I was the top call music guy, Jeff Hamilton came and did their little once-a-year jazz festival. And he brought a black Mapex kit. And normally I don't hang around all that much. But I stood back at the back by the bar and I went, wait a minute. And he was playing with whoever, but he was playing combi brushes. and I went, okay, this is like a Joe Morello, Sonny Payne cat.
Yeah.
What have we learned? Okay, now so many years later, bucket list, I've finally gotten to really hang and be with Jeff Hamilton, like at Miller's studio in LA, whatever. You know, you find out through the years that we're mutual, we're birds of a feather.
Yeah.
Like you and I.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have to tell Hamilton how bad I've always thought of him. He goes, oh yeah, man, I've been digging you since early Tribal Tech. So I'm going, on that note, there was a NAMM show one winter, Sunday afternoon, 4:30 in the afternoon, the shit's being torn down. You're in that big E room with the big main hallway, and I'm walking towards the exit door, and here comes this good-looking black guy dressed to the T, and as he gets closer to me, I said, that looks a hell of a lot like Mr. Hakeem. And I went right up to him, cold, shook his hand. I said, dude, my name is Kirk Covington. And he said, bro, I'm all over your shit. And I said, Hey, you know, I didn't do the thing I did with Billy Cobham a few years earlier, but I said, Omar, you don't understand where I'm coming from. For you to be hip to my body of work and stuff, you are a bucket list hero. It'd be like meeting Buddy Rich, right?
Yeah.
I went up to Billy, and a short story, a couple of NAMs earlier. This is the greatest of all. Same way, Billy was in a pinstripe button-down shirt, slacks, looking fucking great. And I don't usually do this, Dom. I don't usually cold call people. I don't, I'm kind of shy, believe it or not. I went right up to that boy, and I grabbed him, and I put my hand on his left shoulder, and I said, Mr. Cobham, you came into my life in about 1974-ish, and you are like a deity. And he said, dude, Cov, he said, we've been using your tribal tech tracks in my Geneva school for a decade.
Yeah.
And, of course, I'm crying, I'm sniffling, I'm sweating, I'm losing I'm fainting, and I was able to do this. Yeah, he will attest to this. I said, yeah, dude, Billy, that's incredible. I said, hey, you've been on some records too, right? He will never forget that, man. I was able to goof him, in my abject terror. I was like, you've been on a few records too, right, Mr. Cobham? So look, and it's the same with you, Famularo. It's like we met the way we met way back when, but the greatest thing I've ever heard about you, I heard yesterday. Again, from Mr. Miller.
Yeah.
He said,
nice.
By the way, have you checked out that Famularo from the other day? And I said, no, but I would love to. And then I did.
I pay Russ very well to say these things. Absolutely, man.
Here you are, too. You're like three-piece kit. And you're like, right?
You got to tell me about the Captain Kirk and the Devil Horns. This is so freaking great. Again, out of the mind of Russ Miller, out of his label. Tell me about that whole album.
Total year after year bucket list for me. I got to play, me and Greg and Brinker and Joel Fulgham. We shared a legacy of North Texas State years that is hard to even express in words, because in 1980-ish, they got University of Texas funds to build all the new shit.
Yeah.
Didn't. Till that moment, and I got there in early spring 77. We practiced big band in the cafeteria of Chilton Hall. I was in a Jack Peterson and a oh man, please help me. Who's the trombone player, the badass? Come on. These boys let me play keys and drums in 2 or 3 of their afternoon improv classes upstairs in Chilton. They had just barely built the old ancient quads. Ask Rick Latham about it. We had a drum set, or we shared a roommate drum set, and that was it. But through those years, and I'm talking about all the way back to Leon Breeden's origins, there was a vibe at that school in Denton where you just played all day and night, every day and all night. Yeah. Ask Ed Soth, ask Steve Houghton, ask Lyle Mays, ask Pat Coyle, ask all those cats. It was like you played lab band, you played small group. These guys allowed me every other day at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was up in Rich Madison. By the way, you remember he played valve trombone, right?
Absolutely, valve trombone.
Doesn't matter, because him and Jack both were harmonically and melodically iconic. But I was up there as a frustrated, dumbass drummer, right? Playing Stella, playing Forest Flower, playing Maiden Voyage, playing All Blues, playing Ornithology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Barely hanging on to all the other cats, by my shoot tails, but I was surrounded, influenced, and perspective of so many great young Herbies, Chicks, Joes, Oscars, 18 to 22-year-old dudes falling out of the trees. I can't even tell you. These cats I played with day after day, year after year, Bert Ligon, they were, and then on with Scott Kinsey, by the way, they were my leaders. And I said, okay, I have the rhythmic gift. All I have to do is develop the melodic and harmonic gift, right?
Yeah.
You've heard Chick and Joe and Herbie and Gershwin and Louis Satchmo and Chopin and Liszt and Beethoven. From the day one, everybody has understood that if you have what we have as rhythm masters,
yeah,
that's why I played all those different axes for a few years. I continued my North Texas education without anybody making me. I'm telling you, man, the short end of that story is I was in Reno with Bert Ligon and Bill Murray. It's kind of a different story, but I was up there with all three of those saxophones daily, jacking with reed understanding and pads and going, how the hell does Sonny and Joe Rock and Coltrane, how do they do this? That's all I needed, bro, was about a year.
Yeah.
You know, and I've developed those things because I wanted to understand what I began to learn sophomore and junior in high school about modern jazz pedagogy and theory.
So what was it with Captain Kirk and the Devil Horns?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who did some of the writing with that?
Okay.
Always the same is fantastic.
Captain Kirk,
Road.
Captain Kirk came out of Star Trek, and it just made sense, except I was born a Kirk. But the end of my short story is that after all those years with the big bands at North Texas, I went through several decades or more of never playing with a horn section.
Interesting.
And I never realized until I finally did it how devastating it was. So I said, you know what? What if I put together a three-piece Chicago-style horn section, which is the three horns? And I have, to this day, I have requested that Adrian Ruiz and Scott Tibbs and John Mills and myself and John Fremgen and Jeff Helmer, which are my Austin-based cats, I've said, you guys are arrangers. John Mills is the head of the comp and arranging department at UT.
Yeah. These
guys write. I wrote for big bands and small groups for a couple of years at North Texas, 30 years ago. You've got to understand nomenclature, range, transposition, blah, blah, blah. But it was a bucket list blessing for me to have a horn band. And I was playing drums and singing, which, oh, by the way, comes very naturally.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
It comes natural to you because you've got more gifts than any one person could possibly have. And I mean, this is incredible. But I got to tell everyone, you got to go out and get the recording, pick up Captain Kirk and the Devil Horns. So many great tunes in it. Oh, it's the same Gamelin Road. There's so many
horn.
great
Decent record.
It's a great.
Dude, did we not grow up with Chicago Blood and Sweat Tears, Jim Chase, James Brown, Tower of Power?
Absolutely.
Let me finish a quick story.
Yeah.
I now have realized that I want two trumpets. Count them. Yeah. Two trumpets. Can't live without them. That realizes a simile of the North Texas, etc. big band unit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, hey,
incredible.
Me and Miller laugh daily about the fact that I'm having so much fun with this pop career, and with a little bit of push, and it's nothing to hide. Me and RMI are basically kind of sharing the load as far as funding. But let me tell you, and all the listeners, the pop music business is all about funding.
Yeah.
Now, if you're lucky, you have a great tune.
Yeah.
You and I want to write tunes that are like Earth, Wind & Fire, Steely Dan, Stevie Wonder, Chicago. That's what we do. there's so many crappers out there.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same boat, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
I might be stepping on toes, but that's a great.
Your point is well taken. And with these great players, like when I mentioned about sending money to Russ Miller, he said he's still waiting for his.
Did you see that?
And Jeff Hamilton said, "Get in line."
Miller said, "Where's my check?"
You want to get the money? You got to go to my ex-wife. She's holding your money for me. That's what.
You are one of the baddest asses, moderators, and communicators on the planet. I knew it already.
Let me tell
you what I did with Bennett yesterday. Quick, I said, "Hey, I can set my laptop. I can flatten my snare and raise it, and put my laptop on my snare, and put my." Since 12 years old, I put T-shirts on my drums and close pits, and I can be behind my props. And Bennett said, "Hey, you're just going to chat with old Dummy."
Well, I want people to really get to know you, Kirk. You are such this bigger than life personality, and it's just so great. You always offer great stories. You offer great music, whether you're playing drums, piano, singing. It's always greatness that comes out of you because you are pure passion. You are pure dedication at what you do, and you always give 110 freaking %.
That is why I just told you that I am so thrilled to hear that you, like me and everybody that I love, the one thing that we can never lose, all of us, is that magical joy and love of playing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know I needed to hear that. And I knew it. And I knew it about Miller. But when I watched that vid the other day, I went, you know what I told him? I said, he'll remember this. I said, hey, Miller, it's your grooves, your pocket, your depth. Everything is impeccable. But, dude, you need to work on your sight reading. Oh, my Lord. It hasn't been an hour.
It has been an hour. And I got to tell you something. It is always great. Kirk, we'll have to at some point do this again. Mapex offers us the opportunity through their Facebook Live vehicle that they offer us to come out here and totally just, spread the word of all these great players. You have been absolutely fantastic. You've been playing Mapex for many, many years. And Russ had told me that your Saturns are the prototype for the evolution. So you got the.
I'll never finish that story. In my Kegel studio is Russ Miller rebuilt Saturns.
Yeah, absolutely, totally.
Let me tell you something about that drum kit. Forget about it. And I want to give props. I want to give props to you and Mapex and Mark Bennett and Bob Terry and everybody because you guys have made me feel like I felt with Testa.
Nice.
And that's important to know too. Okay? Because I don't expect all the props that the badasses get, but you know what? I have my spot on the rung and I'm ready and willing and excited about pushing our brand together. Yeah. Okay. And now that I know you love the crap out of practicing, just like I do. How old are you, Dom Famularo? 59?
I am 67 years young. Born in 1953.
Dom Famularo. I met him in 93.
Yeah.
And he's been the same cat since day one.
Well, I'll tell you
nobody does this like you, bro.
Well, I'm inspired by guys like yourself, Kirk. I mean, you really are out there pushing the art form forward. You're on the cutting edge of so many great musical styles. This recent album, Captain Kirk and the Devil Horns, again, a Russ Miller label. Out of the mind of Russ Miller, with all that he does, he puts this label together, and it's got great music. Check all of Russ Miller's stuff because the recent thing he just did with Giovanni Hidalgo is
unbelievable. They're in the mid-'80s.
Go there, check
100.
I want to thank all the guys that joined us. Carlos Guzman, Bob Terry was here. So many just great guys that joined us here. Jeff Towers joined us. I mean, my guys, thank you guys so much. All of them are here, man. Everybody, we got people from Russia, from Moscow. Artem McCord, hello from Moscow.
Mark Bennett.
We've Mark Bennett. We've met some great people.
Jeff Mulvihill.
Fantastic.
I love these cats, man. I love these cats.
Captain.
Those guys were smart enough to allow Russ Miller back in the day to design. You realize Russ Miller was designing the side stick and the dealer bopper and the booba bopper and the sub kit. And blah, blah, blah. He has now designed the whole meal.
Out of the mind of Russ Miller. Well, Kirk, we thank you so much on behalf of Mapex. You are fantastic. Enjoy your day,
brother.
safe, and we're going to be hearing some more music out of you. Everybody, go get his recordings. Check it out. We'll see you real soon. Thanks so much, Kirk.
Bless y'all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.